Welcome back to Cruder.com. In this next video, we're going to be going over the sum product formulas, and then we're going to add some conditions to it, and then I'm going to touch onto the array formulas. This is one of my favorite topics, so let's get into it. Now, the sum product formulas that we have here are going to be applied against this May invoices data table that we've been using. The answers that we're going to be coming up with, though, actually are basically the same thing that we've been looking for in the other previous videos that we've been doing in this same video series. And what I mean by that is that they're just actually going to be more complex, these sum product formulas, but in return, we're going to be able to eliminate columns that are no longer necessary that were previously necessary for the easier formulas. Let's get started with this sum product formula. The sum product formula is probably already what you're thinking. It's just the sum, which is the answer to addition, and then the product, which is the answer to multiplication. And Excel tells us right here that it returns the sum of the products of corresponding ranges or arrays. So, which means basically it's going to take two columns, like let's say the quantity and the price, multiply each one against each other, and then add it completely all the way up. Which is actually, if you come back up here, that's exactly what we manually did on every single row. Then we summed it up manually again, while we can do this formula all in one step. So sum product, the first array is my quantity. I'm going to lock it up with F4. And then a comma to the second array that I want to multiply against. Lock it up with F4 and the parentheses and hit enter. As you can see, both of these match, and really this wasn't a very complex formula. It's actually one of the easiest ones. I mean, we're going to make it more complex here with these conditions and an array formula. But I just want to reiterate that this column is no longer needed. So we can save space or conserve space by just deleting it because we did it all in one step here. Let me show you how to do this with a condition now. Let's pretend that our manager wants to know how much money we made off of the box of fasteners this past month. And we can use this same sum product formula, and we don't want all of the rows, we just want the ones that say box of fasteners. Or in this case, I'm just going to filter on this product ID 81567. And so to do that, it's easiest if I just go ahead and start typing the formula, and then I'll explain a little bit as I go. Then we'll go back later and then pick it all apart. So the first thing that I want is the product ID column. That way I can filter on this. And I'm going to say this column needs to be equal to this product ID. And I'm going to lock that one up with F4. And I'm going to close it up, and then I'm going to multiply that against the quantity. And lock that one up as well against with F4. Now notice that I'm still within the first array. You know, when I click this, the whole thing highlights. So this is all one big array that I'm creating, and we'll go back and understand this later. So the second array is saying just multiply that against the price and lock it up with F4 and the parentheses and hit enter. So that comes up to just under $300. Now when you start typing these types of formulas, it's best to just go ahead and just manually add everything up. So I'm going to say that row plus 81567, this row plus, and then there's one more right here, this row. So it does work. It is working properly. Now we just need to go back into it and understand what's going on in here. Now let's start with this first array here. And as you can see, it's really quite long for an array. You almost look at this and you say, well, that's an array. And this is an array because an array is just a range of values. How can you have multiple arrays within one array field? Well, let's break this down. So there's something within here. So we have within parentheses this formula happening. It's saying this array needs to be equal to this value. So now we need to ask the question is, how does Excel evaluate this equation? So if we use the shortcut key F9, you'll see that Excel evaluates it as true and false answers. And it's going through the array right here. So let me Control Z that. And we're looking at this product ID right here. And I'm going to hit F9 again. So F9, it takes it from that formula and turns it into text. And it says the first value is true because this first value in the array was the value you're looking for. The second value is false because it's no longer the same as the value you're looking for. Either is the second, third, fourth, but the fifth right here, it's false, false, false. It goes back to true. So this is what it's doing at the beginning. Now that we understand that how Excel is evaluating that first statement, let's hit undo and Let's understand what it's doing with it when it's multiplying those true and false answers against the next array in this first array statement. So this next array is simply just going to be each number in the quantities. And when it multiplies against true and falses, that's what we need to understand. What does Excel do when that happens? So let's hit F9 after I hit this whole array. So if the whole array is selected, hit F9, Excel, it looks like it's taking 4 and making everything else 0 where the false answers were created in the filtering on the product ID, and then keeping the trues where our box of fasteners are on number 4s. See a bunch of zeros and a number 4 again. So that's pretty neat, because now this array that we have here is going to be multiplied against the price array. So 4 times the price equals 99.96, but 0 times anything is 0. Therefore, it's only going to add the box of fastener rows. Now that we understand how this is made, let me just undo it one more time, and I just want to show you this real quick. So if we go ahead and evaluate just an array just standing by itself and hit F9, you can see that it comes back 43584, which is the same thing in this quantity column, 43584, and so forth all the way down. So if it's going to be multiplied against true and false answers, we just saw that trues stay the same number, but falses turn to zeros. So let's X out of this formula real quick. And let's just verify this. I've never even done this before. So if you take this and multiply it against true, it should equal 4. But if we do the same thing and multiply it against false, it should equal 0. So that proves it out to how Excel is evaluating this formula. Let me quickly just introduce to you array formulas. In this example, let's pretend that our manager wants to know how much money we made on product descriptions that begin with the word box. Now to do this, it's pretty difficult. And just like in the previous example, it's easiest if I just go ahead and start typing this formula, and then we'll dissect it at the end. So the first thing is I need to find the left 3 characters of this product description. So I'm going to lock it up with F4. Comma 3, so I just want the first 3 characters, and they need to be equal to the word box. So that will get us to the filter part on the product description. Then I need to multiply that that'll give us the true falses that we had above. Then we need to multiply that against the quantity range, just like we did last time. And then we're going to multiply that against the price range. Close it up. And it should be 619.57. We actually did this exact same thing in a previous video, but we did it in a much more complex way. And in this step, we did it all in just one formula. Now let's quickly just go ahead and dissect this. And just like before, we have this same beginning that's just enormous. We have a huge array, and just like we did before, we can probably do this much quicker. If I take this and then hit the F9 to evaluate it, you can see Excel again gives us true and false answers, because this is our filter saying, did it make the criteria of equaling box? So for the first one, yes. The second one says roll, so no. The third one, yes, because it said box. So it makes sense. Let me go ahead and undo this, Control Z. So this is just returning true and false answers based on this range, returning the first 3 characters of each and every cell in the range, and then it runs the criteria every time. Does that first 3 characters equal box? Yes or no, true or false? Then the next step Excel is going through is saying, all right, let's go ahead and multiply those true and false answers against the quantity array. Again, when I do this, I hit F9. That just pulls back the quantities in this range right here. So 4358, 4358, and so forth. Control Z. And then it goes and multiplies it against the price. If we take the entire first array and evaluate that with F9, here's the values that will get multiplied against the prices. So the ones that are zeros are getting multiplied obviously still against the price, but they return 0. Therefore, they get filtered out of the answer. Let me Control Z this and hit enter to finish the formula.